Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I'm your host, Dylan Wallace. Today, we have a great episode for you guys. Just a quick side note, I did change the audio levels just a little bit, so if this video sounds a little weird or different than some of the previous ones, that is the reason. But if it sounds off or wrong, I can always reset the levels, so just let me know in the comments if it all sounds good. I wanted to bring down the mic level a little bit because I feel like on the podcast version, it sounds super loud, but it's still like normal or quieter on the video version, so I'm hoping that levels out a little bit more. But anyways, that's kind of the behind the scenes stuff for today. It is an Omega run, so we are just trying to catch up on a whole bunch of books that we missed over vacation and didn't get a chance or opportunity to review in the last show. So this week is going to be a whole bunch of just singles, all from last week or the previous week. And then after that, I think I have a couple of more single issues, and then we'll be completely caught up. We'll also have, of course, the pulls from this week just to add on to the pile, but they're not too much. And I think by the time we get to the Omega for next week, we'll be strictly into backlogs all over again. So it's actually kind of interesting. I feel like this is the first time that I've done an Omega with just single issues in quite a long time. So that's kind of a fun fact here, and wasn't even really able to get to any of the backlog books. So anyways, with that, let's just go ahead and get into the review, shall we? 10 books as per usual. We'll go ahead and list them off. We have The Ultimates, issue number 21, Ultimate Spider-Man, issue number 24, Absolute Wonder Woman, issue number 17, Absolute Batman, issue number 17, Absolute Martian Manhunter, issue number 9, G.I. Joe, number 19, Red Book, number 4, Voyeur, number 4, Minor Arcana, number 14, and then we're going to close it out with Skinbreaker, issue number 6. So those will be the 10 books in that particular order. As I was putting this together, I was thinking about making this title something along the lines of like Nothing But the Hits, because really it is just a bunch of the best books that are running right now, a couple of the independents as well, but certainly on the Absolute and the Ultimate side of things. So I just thought that was interesting, and specifically that's on an Omega. So hopefully a bunch of people listen to this one because it's pretty good from a quality standpoint. So anyways, we'll go ahead and start off with the Ultimates. Brief reminder, or if this is your first time tuning in, the way that this review format will go is I will catch you up on the book thus far, but I do spoil the heck out of the book. So if you're not interested in spoilers, it's just not going to be the podcast for you. But once we get you caught up in everything, I'll show off some of the artwork. I'll let you know my score on League and then the League score as well, and whether or not this is a good issue to jump into based on the story. So with that, for the Ultimate issue number 21, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And for this issue, I was pretty much at a solid 4. I didn't think it was any higher or lower than that. What we have here is we're getting into truly the end game, right? There is a book that is going on that's like the ultimate end game that is happening as well. This is taking place still in the world. The Ultimates, or just the citizens of this world, are fighting up against the opposition, and a lot of this issue takes place in North America. It is Luke Cage and the Ultimate group that is fighting back against the Maker's kind of council at this point. So the Ultimates, they have a pretty good foothold in a bunch of different cities. It's like Nashville, I think it's Memphis, I think it's Atlanta, and they're just making all these strongholds where they've taken over. But DaCosta in particular is not going to go down without a fight. He has assembled a team called the Defenders, who are now going after Luke Cage as far as like a counteroffensive. So now it's the Ultimates versus the Defenders. Of course, the Defenders are trying to change the narrative here, make it look as though the Ultimates are committing war crimes, even though they're not, and the Defenders actually were committing those crimes. The whole issue just encapsulates all in just one story of Defenders are introduced, Defenders are beaten, and then at the end, DaCosta is killed as well. And now Emma Frost has taken the remainder of the students and control of the Hellfire club, and she's moved all those resources and assets down to South America. So that's the gist of the story. Again, the biggest piece I'd say for a 4, and I'm going to show off some of this artwork here, is the art itself. It's a lot of fight scenes that take place, and it's really the Ultimates and their groups just doing all the right things. So as they slowly start to take over, it's just like, okay, how do we kind of establish or reestablish a city? We've taken it over. How do we handle people that have been incarcerated unfairly? How do we make sure that we're actually trying the soldiers that were fighting for the Makers' side, fairly and justly? Turns out they found out there's a whole bunch of research done back in the 70s on how there's like renewable fuels and oils, but they buried it obviously for profits. It's stuff like that. And so now they're just trying to run the society as they have always wanted in the first place. Defenders, they attempt to stop them, but they're unable to, and so the Ultimates kind of keep doing their thing. So it's a good book, but it's tough to really jump into the story at this point. So I'd say just kind of wait until it all completes, and then you could go ahead and pick up the Ultimates. Right now, the crew is like totally and completely separate, so a lot of the folks that we're used to seeing, like Spider-Man, Iron Lad, they're all in the endgame portion of this, and these are just kind of like the quote-unquote leftovers who are helping out on the Ultimate side. So that's the Ultimates issue number 21. I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4 as well. Then next up is going to be Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 24, which is the conclusion to Ultimate Spider-Man. So this is all said and done. I gave the book a 4.5. League, I was surprised, went lower on this. Only gave it a 4.1. And the biggest reason I was surprised is because this felt like a very classic, traditional way to end a Spider-Man book. So massive spoilers on this if you don't want any of that, but definitely not the time to jump into it at this point. You can read it all together. It's probably going to be about 4 volumes long if you assume 6 or so issues per trade. And the conclusion here is we have Spider-Man. He's fighting against Fisk and Mr. Negative. Meanwhile, while his son, Richard, is basically the symbiote suit, basically Venom, and Black Cat are also in the building as well, trying to put a stop to it while simultaneously spreading out the message to the rest of the world of, what the Makers Council has been up to this entire time. It looks like Reed and Black Cat are going to be taken out, but rather than Spider-Man saving the day, it's actually both Reed and Black Cat who are able to get themselves out of their own situation, which, obviously shows a lot of growth and development from these kids who have been thrust into this world and become heroes on their own, and how they're able to do it successfully is pretty great. So their mission is complete. Meanwhile, with Fisk and Mr. Negative failing, they are then kicked out of the council, and both of them are kind of challenging each other of okay, how are they going to rebuild? Mr. Negative goes to mind control Wilson Fisk, and when he does, he's about to toss him off the building that they're on, but Fisk has just enough of his own action to realize what he's able to do and can control some of his motor, and so yes, he lets go of the ledge, but rather than letting go of the ledge, he grabs onto Mr. Negative as well, pulls him down. They both go tumbling down. Tens and dozens of stories to both of their deaths, so they've been eliminated. So with that void of the power of who's in charge now of New York and really North America overall, the power is then given to Mysterio, who we find out has actually been alive this whole time. So Mysterio was 5 different individuals making up one Mysterio as a whole. Their apartment or building or whatever was bombed, and the only way that they were able to survive, and the way that it's explained, is that they all had to merge into one person. So they're in the body of Gwen Stacy, but really has the personalities of 5 different people. So with that, Harry and Gwen, they have to go their separate ways, because basically Gwen is not Gwen anymore. It's 1/5 of who her personality is, and so effectively she might as well have really just passed. But Mysterio is now technically in charge, and we'll see what all that means as we get further into the endgame portion of all this. But other than that, everyone else kind of saves the day. Jane and Peter Parker, they're on good terms, so they're trying to figure out what their next steps are with their family as they go and try to stop the Maker. So overall, Ultimate Spider-Man, I enjoyed it a lot. I do highly recommend it. I think there are elements of this book that are like some of the best pieces of comic book writing that I have read, but at the same time, it's Jonathan Hickman, right? So you're going to get a lot of exposition in this as well. So bear that in mind, but you know what you're getting into when you start to read a particular author, and he lives up to his name in this book as well. But the different takes that they have on Spider-Man and the universe and the villains and the surprises, the twists, the turns, I thought it was an incredible piece. So definitely worth checking out. If you're interested, just go ahead and start from the beginning. Obviously, don't start here at issue number 24. We'll go ahead, show off some of the artwork as we have kind of this final showdown and fight where Spider-Man's trying to fight both Fisk and Mr. Negative. And then, of course, we have Reed in the symbiote suit as well with Black Cat. And right here at the very end, able to stop everything. Looks like Black Cat and Reed are going to be together, which is a nice little happy ending for them as well. There's where Fisk and Mr. Negative have that fight on top of the building, and boom, they go splat on the pavement, on the sidewalk. And then basically we get a little epilogue here of what all is happening to the rest of the characters. So yeah, it was a great book. Enjoyed it. Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 24. Again, this particular issue, I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.1. If I had to give the whole series, I mean, probably ended up being a 4.5, to be honest with you. I think most were probably 4.5, and almost all of them were 4 or above. So it's a great series. So with that, we'll go to the next one here. We are going to go to Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 17. I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4.5. So I was a little surprised on the 4.5. Felt like it was a lot higher of a rating than I would have done. And the biggest reason is we don't get a lot of those flashbacks that I love so much about the Absolute Wonder Woman, of like, here's her backstory that's been slowly revealed to us, of like just how insane and chaotic and borderline torturous it was for her to grow up in hell. You don't get any of that in this particular issue, which bummed me out because I feel like those are some of the really awesome pieces that let you know of like the girl's gone through it to really get to this level, right? But we're at a fight here. This is part 2, so you really technically want to jump into issue number 16. You'd be fine if you jumped in at 17, but the beginning is a little bit confusing here. But she's at a gala that they were going to recognize and honor Wonder Woman. It is then interrupted by Zatanna, Giganta. I always forget how we say her name. It is, yes, Giganta, and then Cheetah. So really off the rip, Zatanna says in kind of like pig Latin, I'm being like possessed, and there's this, it's almost like a spider-like thing that's ingested inside of her, and she needs to be freed. And when she's telling Wonder Woman this, Wonder Woman's been like stripped of her powers. And so, Wonder Woman kind of recognizes A, the pig Latin, and then B, what's all going on. So she helps to expel whatever Zatanna was possessing her. And when she does, Zatanna basically says thanks and then leaves. So she's no longer even part of the fight. So now it's just Giganta and Cheetah going after Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman's powers start coming back. Now the thing with Giganta is, as the fight keeps going on, she just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so what Wonder Woman does is she gets like a piece of her hair, and she'll do a spell and basically matches the same size of Giganta. So Cheetah effectively is not really in the fight. It's mostly just between Wonder Woman and Giganta, and they get to the point where they are the size of kaiju, the size of skyscrapers, fighting each other till they get to the equivalent of Central Park. Wonder Woman gets her in a chokehold, puts her to sleep. So that's basically it as far as the story is concerned. The other piece is though Area 41, I think they call it, maybe it's 51, but either way, they sent Zatanna and realized that Zatanna outsmarted them. So now they're like, crap, we need another wizard or sorcerer to go after Wonder Woman. So they have an asset who can do it, but they're like, this asset is more powerful than Zatanna. But like, yes, but not as smart, like doesn't realize that they would be possessed. So send them into the field. And then sure enough, at the end of the issue, it is this warlock, fully skeletal looking wizard or sorcerer. I say more of a warlock that uses some sort of blood spells and shoots Wonder Woman with that spell, and her arm starts to like disintegrate. So we'll see all what happens there. Great cliffhanger at the end there. The Zatanna piece was weird, and then also the fact that you didn't have any of the flashbacks to her childhood is what brought it down for me personally. But the cover here is dope. So this is cover B that you're looking at, where you have Wonder Woman, and it almost looks like she has like maybe Hades behind her, or like the shadow behind her. It almost, if you play Diablo at all, the video game, Diablo 3 in particular, almost looks like Malthael is like behind her, so which is so cool. Always love the cover Bs. They look freaking epic. I'd say the cover of the week, but we have a couple other ones that look pretty good. But this one definitely gets an honorable mention. We'll go ahead, show off the artwork. Artwork is fine. Still kind of that style where it takes a whole bunch of different overlapping and different shaped paneling, but still really good as far as the readability. So that's all fine. I just think the fight scene itself is just so-so. It's just okay, and like, okay, just getting bigger and bigger. The story behind it wasn't as interesting. It didn't hook me nearly as much as I would have liked it to. So that's just the one knock against it. So here's kind of that warlock towards the end, and boom, this like blood spell where it's like burning and melting her arm there. And this, of course, is the magical arm, not still the organic one. So yeah, that is Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 17. Again, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4.5. You'd be fine to jump into it, reminder, but 16 is probably where you want to start. Boom. Now we have Absolute's Batman issue number 17. What an incredible book here. I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.6. And folks, very, very easily, this is the comic of the week. I'd even say it's the cover of the week as well. So we'll give it 2 there. This one came out technically 2 weeks ago, but obviously just getting to it right now. It is the start of this Poison Ivy arc, so issue number 17 is a perfect one to go ahead and jump into. Cover here, we have Poison Ivy sitting on top of like all these roots on this large tree thing that it looks like, whereas Batman is like on his knees and getting like poisoned and has a whole bunch of different roots sticking out of him and his shoulder and like coming out of his mouth. Looks pretty epic and dope. I loved this book, and I love what they're doing with Poison Ivy here. It feels, pretty typical of what you would expect of Poison Ivy. You get a little bit of her backstory here. Her mother brought her to Gotham. Seems like she got sick, but she's brilliant, as she kind of always is, and like some sort of scientist. She comes back all pissed off, maybe that the doctors didn't do what they were supposed to, and she gets a whole bunch of grants for her research, but she knows that the people that are providing all this funding really just want to, use whatever discoveries that she has to get rich off of her hard work. And so I guess she goes crazy, unleashes this tree in the middle of Gotham that grows to be enormous, and now Batman's trying to infiltrate it and to work his way through. So as he's fighting his way through, he's got Pennyworth on his earpiece telling him how to navigate everything as he goes and runs to a couple of police officers there, but they're turned into like these zombified monsters, very similar to Poison Ivy and just kind of the standard DC universe. So he's fighting through as best as he can. But the other thing that's happening along this story is we're finding out too that Bruce Wayne is losing a lot of his friends along the way too. So they're not speaking to him because of all the things that have happened, not just with the Batman, but to them as well. So he's losing friends, and they're all distancing themselves. The city's rallying behind Batman, but it's bigger than what he ever intended it to be. So he's just having a very difficult time adjusting. So as he's fighting his way up, a lot of this is very angry Batman trying to brute force his way to stop this thing, because it's like, all right, all the personal stuff in my life isn't coming through. Now I gotta some way, somehow stop what's going on with Poison Ivy. So he makes it all the way to the top. He thinks he sees Poison Ivy there, but they're basically different illusions that he ends up fighting until the actual Poison Ivy is revealed. And it's like this crazy looking, grotesque, half human, well, not even half, maybe a quarter or an eighth human, other zombified, big monster, all mixed into like one, but like still a humanoid form. It's like crazy towards the end there. On top of all of that, basically find out at the very end that his mother, who was running, for city council, is actually part of the Court of Owls. So she called them up, and now there's going to be some sort of involvement with the Court of Owls moving forward with his own mother. So it is just crazy. So that's the story in a nutshell. Definitely worth checking out. Go through some of the artwork here, some of that backstory, and then basically you got this tree in the middle of Gotham and Batman trying to fight his way up, all these spores that he's trying to avoid, and then like I mentioned, meanwhile, you still have the side plot of him losing all of his friends also. So here's where she fights her way up to the top. You think it's actually her, but it's these different illusions he ends up fighting, and then this is what she actually looks like. It's like this crazy grotesque monster here, and then here's the mention of the Quarter Owls at the end. Highly recommend it. Absolute Batman continues to deliver issue after issue. It's the best comic going, like full stop. It really is the best. Not only is it Batman, but it's also living up to the hype, right? The expectation of any sort of Batman property is already colossally, impossibly high, and the fact that it lives up to it and surpasses, can't beat that, folks. You can't beat that. So definitely pick of the week and an awesome one to jump into. So that's Absolute Batman issue number 17. I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.6. I was close to a 5, folks. I was pretty close, but it wasn't quite there. But I was thinking about it pretty heavily. Next up here is going to be Absolute Martian Manhunter, issue number 9. I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.6 as well. So another great one. I was actually debating between 4.5. Artwork is outstanding, as it's always been. If you've been listening for a while, you know that I always talk about the art piece behind this series. Is just masterful. The story here is good, and it's leading in the right direction, but it can be really confusing as you kind of read through it. But as I was thinking on it more and more, I was like, yeah, it's definitely at the 4 or 5 range. So I decided to go with that story that we got going thus far. We have John. Technically, issue 8 is going to be the new start to this arc, but you'd be fine if you wanted to jump here into issue number 9. John is separated from the Green Martian. The Green Martian has been captured and is being dissected, and to replace him is like this darker, purpley black Martian that is taking over. And so this new Martian represents all the negative emotions, right? So fear, anxiety, stress, depression, anger, hatred, like envy, all of those, right? It's just all those things wrapped up in one, and basically tells John, like, I'm going to be your new buddy here, and I'm going to slowly destroy you internally, mentally, within, just beat you down with all this negativity. And so John, he has an important therapy meeting with his ex-wife, or like separated wife, about his child's, and they're having the conversations, and the Martian keeps sowing all of this doubt, and John, still kind of like the distant, trying to ignore everything, as he did with the Green Martian as well. But it's just that much more difficult, where Green Martian was saying all these like kind of random things, whereas this darker Martian is like clearly just trying to have him lean into all these negative emotions, to the point where John like finally snaps, and he starts being combative, right? He's making like irrational assumptions and just taking everything to the nth degree, to the point where the meeting goes extraordinarily sour. He basically goes walking out. They think he's a threat, and they think he needs to be like sedated and potentially like institutionalized, is the way that it all ends up kind of shaping out, while the Green Martian still being dissected, completely separated. And it almost looks like the black or purpley Martian has like taken over at this point. So things aren't looking good for John, not looking good for his marriage. And he's in a lot of trouble. Not quite sure how he's going to be able to get out of it. Go ahead, show off the artwork, which of course is masterful. And yeah, I was right. So it's like purpley, blackish Martian that now takes over. And he seems like, oh yeah, good intentions at first, but you know deep down it's not going to be. Here is where that dissection is starting to take place, and then where the therapy starts to unfold and things just start to unravel and get worse for John. And then I think this is a great scene here where you can see John himself, and you know he's fighting back, but really it's just those emotions that he's really leaning into that are causing all the issues. So it just gets worse and worse to the point where he is like basically held down, and he's about to be institutionalized at this point. So not good for John, not good at all, but a great book. So that's Absolute Martian Manhunter issue number 9. Again, I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.6. And now we'll go on to the independent side of things. So we have here G.I. Joe issue number 19. So this book, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4.2. A little surprised that it was above a 4. The story is fine. I just didn't think it was the best. We have the Dreadnoughts are defeated. Duke is now pissed, and he's pissed at everyone for hiding the secret that they knew about the Autobots. Clutch in particular, who's like one of his best comrades and mates, and it's like he was hiding that they found Hound, the Autobot. And so, you know, Hound is an Autobot, like I mentioned, and not a Decepticon. So, you know, he's trying his best to like just diffuse everything, and Duke is just not really listening to rationality. And it's like, I saw, you know, one of your things take out one of my best friends, and Hound starting to piece it together. It's like, that sounds like it was Starscream, who is a Decepticon and obviously a bad guy. That is not who I'm part of. We are the opposite side. We're the side of like good and justice and so on and so forth. So Duke's like, okay, well, if you say you're a soldier, then you have a commanding officer. Who's that? And of course he says Optimus Prime, but I can't contact Optimus because my transponder is down. Optimus probably doesn't even know I'm alive. So Duke's like, okay, we got to go ahead and get that repaired, and we know the techie guy who can do that. So then that leaps over to this guy named Track, and Track is on the run. So he's being chased down. We're not really sure by who. He ends up going to like, it's straight up a NASCAR race. It looks like the Daytona 500. He runs into an agent there where he's trying to get some intel of like who's after him and why, but he's been found out. And it's Mayhem who shows up, lands in the middle of the racetrack, and is going after Track. But Track is the one who is likely going to be able to repair Hound's transponder, so that way he can link up with Optimus. And then we'll probably have like the major crossover between both G.I. Joe and Transformers, which would be cool. So that's the issue. It would be a fine point to jump into at this stage of the game. I think you'd be okay. But yeah, we have basically Duke getting all pissed off about everything. Then Track, we learn a little bit of why he might have been framed. Mission debrief of the next mission they're about to go on. And then this is where Mayhem ends up landing in the middle of that racetrack, and he's going after Track. So yeah, that is that. G.I. Joe, issue number 19. I think it's a fine one to go ahead and jump into if you really wanted to, but I've been enjoying the heck out of it. G.I. Joe, issue number 19, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4.2. Then, next up is going to be Red Book, issue number 4. This is the conclusion to Red Book here. I gave it a 4. League gave it a 3.9. This is going to be a weird one to try to recommend. It is basically UFO and UAP stories all combined into like one book between Blue Book and Red Book. Red Book more focuses in on things that were happening in China and in Russia, but since this is the conclusion, it actually kind of wraps up with a bunch of relevant stuff that's also been happening in the US, things as recent as like last year and 2 years ago. And now it's actually kind of interesting now, you know, saying this in 2026, where we have like confirmations that there are aliens, and like Trump basically saying that he's going to release all the alien information. So it's like, wow. And I'm reading this book here. It feels like if they were going to do an issue number 5, just wait 6 months and you'd have plenty of material to write on it. So it's, a nice little wrap up here. But it truly is like, these are nonfiction counts and chords, and you can go ahead and just Google them, and they are what happened, but it's just in comic book format, which, some art to go along with it. And it's just a recounting and retelling of different encounters with whether it be pilots when they were up in the air or people on the ground with eyewitness accounts, so on and so forth. Different hearings and different agencies that were then set up. Were things covered? Were they not? Here's what the common belief is. Here's what the theories are, so on and so forth. Like, just told by James Tynion and, some artwork behind it. So it's a cool little project, and I really enjoyed Blue Book, so I just went ahead and picked up Red, but this is the conclusion here. You'd be fine if you pick this one up because you're just going to get like a chronology thing, but they're not necessarily connected one after the other, so you don't even have to pick up one. You're just going to get a subset of different stories within each book. So I'll show off some of the artwork so you can take a look here. They all have kind of this cool art style where it's like a mix of like black and white, and then they'll add some hues of red and blue, just depending on whether or not it's things that took place in the US or if it took place in China or in Russia. And then, just what the tone was and, how each nation felt about UAPs and the different accounts behind it. Some leaned into it, some just completely discounted it. A lot of this information, especially on the Russian side of things, were during the Cold War, so it's like, how much do we actually know? It's cool. I enjoyed it. I like comic books and pro wrestling. Would it be that far of a stretch to say UFOs interest me as well? Probably not. So that's why I went ahead and picked it up. So that's Red Book issue number 4. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. Then the next one here, Voyeur. Man, what a book. This is such an insane one that I ended up picking up because it was only because there was like this like bookmark thing that it even looked kind of interesting in the shop, and I just went ahead, picked it up. Leah Williams, man, she can write. It's such a cool, interesting story. So I gave this particular issue 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. I think the other issues I gave a little bit higher. What is? 4.5 for 3, 4 for 2, and then 4.5 for 1. But we have like a heisty little romance thriller going here where we have Rook, who is trying to steal from this really fancy hotel, and then we have Madeline, who is a guest at the hotel, but it turns out she also deals in like maybe some black market art as well, and they are having the sexy time while at the same time trying to like rip off this hotel, and so they find themselves in like this private bungalow. Sorry, if you listen to the previous one, there was like a crazy cliffhanger of like Madeline was covered in blood. She quickly explains she was out with a guest and he cut himself like trying to open a bottle of wine or something like that. So it actually ended up that she didn't like murder anyone or anything like that. But now they're at like this private little bungalow, basically where they send all the honeymooners on this island, and they have the sexy time galore. But with that, Madeline gets this crazy idea of like, okay, we're trying to hit a couple of pieces here, but we actually have this window of opportunity where we could go ahead and steal all the artwork off of this island. So her whole idea is there's this big activity thing that happens at this resort where all the guests are at this particular event. So nobody is in the rooms, and the rooms are what have the artwork. So it's like, cool, let's get the whole staff on board. We can go and we can smuggle it and we can get it off the island, and then we can go ahead and sell it. So Rook is like, no, we're not going to do it. There's no way. And then finally, she keeps saying it, keeps bringing it up, and he agrees. So they gather all the different staff members, and they let them know this is what they're planning to do. And it seems like everyone's on board. That takes place. Then, meanwhile, Madeline kind of has like this second life where this guy, Dez, is after her. And as you're reading through it, it keeps talking about like, yeah, except it had to be Dez. If we were truthful more about Dez, maybe like it would have ended differently, like foreshadowing stuff that's about to go down in issue number 5. And it basically looks like Dez is going after Madeline for whatever reason. So we don't know a lot about him yet, but he is hot on the heels. So yeah, that is Voyeur. Now it is very mature, so I got to make sure that I get to okay spot because it's definitely rated R, but it is an awesome story. I can't recommend this enough. If you're into like thriller heists, it's just awesome. So that is Voyeur issue number 4. It's an Ignition Press. I think this is the only Ignition Press book that I have. And yeah, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. And then, second to last one here, we're going to do Minor Arcana issue number 14. For Voyeur, just start from the beginning. And for Minor Arcana, it's tough to jump into this one at this point. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.3. Surprised League was this high on this one, but I mean, at this stage of the game, if you're still reading this book, like, you're locked in. It is a slow burn, and things have been ramping up to a point. We just had Brad, who's the police officer, who's married to Teresa's, who are main character's ex-girlfriend, right, was just shot. So he was shot, and at the end of this, looks like he actually may be dead. We'll see. So Teresa is starting to realize ever since she came back to this town, all this crazy stuff has been happening. Maybe she's the reason it's happening. Why is all this negative stuff seem to be creeping up in her life all of a sudden? Meanwhile, her mother, who has cancer, she's getting sick. She is like washing dishes, and she hears someone call to him, turns around, and it ends up being her father that she sees who's dead. So Teresa's grandfather. So she's like, oh my gosh, like I just saw him as like some sort of vision. So Teresa comes home later and sees her mother and is like, we need to have a conversation, which leads us to the reader of like, oh wait, her mother, who we thought was, a fortune teller, but like scamming people. Maybe she actually knows a little bit about like these visions as well. Because every time her and Teresa, they start to talk about it, and then Teresa gets all fed up and then like leaves. And then at the very, very end, her friend comes to the door and like talks about Brad after being with him in the hospital and explains like things are not going well. So yeah, that is the story. It's just kind of progressing. We still don't really know what all the motives are for the people that are going after Teresa. So that's still a little bit up in the air. And I guess we're going to find out a little bit more of what Teresa's mother knows too. And yeah, it's cool. Slow burn for sure. So you truly would have to start at issue number 1, which I guess, or I should say, I know is a tough sell, but it's been worth the journey thus far. So that's Minor Arcana. Let's go ahead and show off the artwork. This has been the one that looks like a bunch of watercolor is the best way to describe it, but it's tastefully done. So I like it. It's like so simplistic, and it's more about the storytelling and the artwork than the artwork. But you kind of marry the two together, and it's a nice little project. So yeah, Minor Arcana, issue number 14. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.3. And then the final one here is going to be Skinbreaker issue number 6. Gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.3. This is a Robert Kirkman joint. We have the Chief. He is on the run. As he's on the run, he has a whole bunch of traps that are laid out. So we have this Chief. He's embracing technology, trying to move this society forward of a bunch of orcs, whereas the other orcs, they really value the old traditional ways of just brute force and just trying to be stronger. Our Chief is very old, coming to the end of his life, and the way that they declare a new chief is you basically trial by combat. The new chief kills the old one. The new one then leads the trial. So they had one of those. Our chief, our main character, he ran off, and the new chief, who was basically effectively mated, even though it's not official because the old one's not dead, is chasing after him. And so all the traps, they slow them all down. And then our chief is cornered at the top of a waterfall. And he's like pleading with them. He's like, you see the traps, you see what they do. They slow people down. The beasts that we're hunting, they're getting smarter, they're getting stronger, they're actually attacking us now. We need to embrace these traps. It's the only way that our tribe is going to survive. And so he listens to it, but ultimately he does not go through it and ends up knocking our chief off the waterfall. We think he falls to his death, but he does not. There's like a little underwater cave, and he ends up being okay. So then our new perceived chief, he heads home, and he runs into his father. And his father is the one who initially wanted to fight our chief for the title in the first place, but he's much older. And he explains to his father of like, hey, but yes, he's gone, but maybe we do need to embrace these traps. Maybe this is the right way to move forward. And his father like loses it, starts to like try to hit him, but he's so weak and feeble, and he's like, coughing up like blood, basically. It looks like he's on his last leg, and then the son is like, I'm sorry, father, which to me as the reader means like, okay, maybe this guy is actually going to start embracing the traps. We'll have to see. So yeah, it's, again, the masterful thing that this book does is there's so little dialogue here, and it's all just told through the emotion of the art, which makes it incredible. This is almost my preferred way of reading through comics. Sometimes it can feel like, man, I just spent all this money and I literally read through it in less than 5 minutes. But then there are other times where it's like, yeah, show, don't tell. The Ultimates, for example, the first book that I reviewed in this episode, way too wordy. Like, way too wordy to say, like, here are the defenders. The Ultimates stop them. The end. It was, like, way too much. This, it basically is, like, as long as I just said that sentence. But it gets across an incredible story here. So it's not a good one to jump into. You might as well start from the beginning. But you'll see as I show off the art here, like, there are no words on this page, but the art just looks gorgeous. No words on this page as well. And then here, it's just like a couple of text bubbles. That's it. Just a couple here. And it's just almost like one-liners because they're orcs, right? They're not humans. So the communication, of course, is going to be pretty simplistic. So here's that fight on the waterfall before he is knocked off. Boom, into the lake. Swims away from this beast. Finds this cave where he can live to fight another day. Our new chief goes back home, runs into his father, who's all pissed off, but he's weak. Can't quite keep it all together, and so we'll see what the son ends up deciding in the next issue. So yeah, Skinbreaker issue number 6. Again, I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.3. And that's it, folks. That is it for this review. Let's go ahead and just recap everything real quick before we get out of here. We had the Ultimates issue number 21. The Defenders try to stop the Ultimates, but they are defeated. Then Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 24 is number 24 is the conclusion to this Ultimate Spider-Man. Spider-Man, Reed, and Black Cat, they end up saving the day. Kingpin and Mr. Negative are taken out. Mysterio is all one person moving forward. Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 17. It's Wonder Woman's fight against Giganta, and now she's got this warlock that is going after her. Absolute Batman issue number 17. We got Batman bringing it to Poison Ivy. Absolute Martian Manhunter issue number 9. We have John, who's being taken over by this new Martian. G.I. Joe issue number 19. We got Duke, Hound, and Clutch going after it, but now they're trying to get Hound's transponder repaired by Track. Red Book issue number 4. We got some more UAP and UFO stories. Voyeur issue number 4. Got Rook and Madeline trying to plan a heist to steal all the paintings at the resort. Minor Arcana issue number 14. Teresa is realizing she's messing everything up, but her mother has a secret to share. And then Skinbreaker issue number 6. Our chief, he was nearly killed but saved, and the new chief is thinking about embracing the new ways moving forward. So yeah, that is it. Those are the books. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you so very much for tuning in to this episode. If you check out the description below, that's where you can follow the show on social media. And if you'd like to support monetarily, there's a link down there, buymeacoffee.com/SaturdayMorningReview. All proceeds will basically go towards buying some books. Any amount you'd be willing to donate would be greatly appreciated. With that, go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next one.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.